The purpose of this exercise is to demonstrate how easy it is to utilize Server Core and PowerShell to facilitate production workloads and quickly build out lab environments. It is still extremely common to see full GUI installs of Windows Server for workloads that are fully supported within Server Core. Here, we will select Standard Edition rather than Data Center Edition, as there is no reason to install Data Center Edition from a capabilities perspective. It is now merely about virtualization rights, and your domain controller should not be a host system for virtualization. That being said, you won't create any technical debt by selecting Data Center Edition either. It will be more common to utilize these tasks to create lab environments and to develop your skills than it will be to create new Active Directory forests in a production environment. However, I will have a follow-up video that outlines adding a Windows Server 2012 R2 Server Core system as a domain member and promoting it to a domain controller in an existing domain. I had no intention of this video being any sort of race to install the system as quickly as possible. However, the task doesn't take long. The target system is a virtual machine running on a laptop with Windows 7, an Intel Core i7M processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 2 solid-state drives, one dedicated to all of the laptop functionality and the other dedicated to virtual machines. While it's a powerful laptop, it doesn't do any justice to production virtualization infrastructures or moderately priced lab systems. One of the primary concerns with installing Server Core is the lack of a comprehensive knowledge of PowerShell commands related to the common tasks one might require when managing a domain controller. PowerShell is vast, and it is impossible to know every commandlet and every attribute for every product. That isn't necessary, however. It is good to begin with a basic understanding of PowerShell and to become good at searching through documentation to find anything else. However, even many beginning systems administrators will be familiar with utilizing MMC tools remotely to administrate systems. This is exactly what should be done if one prefers to utilize GUI tools when working with a Server Core domain controller. Now, we will rename the computer and configure networking. Here, we will begin by entering a PowerShell command window. The first command is rather simple, rename -computer, and the single attribute will be new name. We will set the computer name to DC1. Next, we will execute get-net IP configuration so that we can find the current interface index and the DHCP assigned default gateway. Now we will execute new-net IP address, where we will specify the interface index that we just reviewed, an appropriate IP address, the subnet mask as a CIDR entry with the prefix length attribute, and the default gateway that we just reviewed. Finally, we will execute set-DNS client server address and we will specify the interface index again and specify the new IP address of the local machine that we previously set. This attribute is a comma-separated multi-value field, but we only have one address at this time. Now we reboot the system. This is required so that the new name will take effect. Now we can log back into the system and validate the new system name has taken effect. Now we can create the new Active Directory forest. First, we will install the appropriate Windows Server components by executing the install-windows feature commandlet and specify ad-domain-services and DNS. These are the bare minimum requirements to establish a new Active Directory forest if you do not already have a DNS infrastructure in place. Finally, we execute install-addds forest and specify the FQDN with the domain name attribute and the NetBIOS domain with the domain NetBIOS attribute. Here, I am choosing a .local address. This is no longer the preferred way to establish an Active Directory forest. The best practice is to choose a publicly accessible domain name. This used to be the preferred method to name an Active Directory infrastructure, but with the advent of new cloud services, this creates a small challenge. I will be using this lab for upcoming demonstrations where I will provide a solution to solve this challenge. Here are some key things to note. As this is the first domain controller in a new Active Directory forest, it will have all 5 of the flexible single master operation roles or FSMO roles, including the PDC emulator role. If this is a virtual machine, ensure that the guest is not synchronizing its time to the host operating system. Active Directory Domain Services utilizes Kerberos for authentication, which is a time-sensitive service. Time drift will cause authentication issues until it is remediated. The Windows Time Service is responsible for maintaining accurate time throughout an Active Directory service infrastructure. I will have a link to a Wikipedia article that I've helped to maintain that discusses how time services work in a domain. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to stay up to date on videos as they're released, and view my blog for more content including scripts, rants, and other topics. So long.